Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode on the Grace-Filled Leader podcast. Today we are finishing our conversation with Polly Payne. Polly is the CEO and founder of Horacio Printing. Polly is, I think, the queen of planners. She incorporates dreaming into her planners and she includes God at the center of it all. She's sold over 45,000 dream planners around the world and raised over $73,000 to help fight human trafficking through her partnership with A21. She also launched her own print school in 2022 to empower other dreamers to make their own Bible studies, journals, and planners. She's a huge fan of empowering the next generation of creators. Now, let's get back into our conversation with Polly Payne. Welcome to the Grace-Filled Leader podcast. Do you want better work-life balance? Do you get stuck in patterns of perfectionism and people-pleasing? Have you always been an overachiever but never really feel good enough, no matter how much outward success you achieve? Do you want more time for the things that matter most? Hi, I'm Tanya, a wife, mom, leader, certified Christian life coach, and Jesus lover. For most of my life, I tried to find worthiness through achievement. But no matter how hard I worked or how much I achieved, I never felt like I was enough. I was left burned out, empty, and exhausted. I had no time or energy for myself or my family. I needed balance. I needed peace. My life changed when I finally started to live like an unconditionally loved daughter of the King, saved by grace. This faith-led podcast will teach you time management, self-care routines, and practical leadership strategies to help you navigate life and leadership. If you're ready to become fueled by grace and free from people-pleasing, if you're ready to multiply your time and impact as a Christian woman in leadership, this podcast is for you. Unbutton your blazers and roll up your sleeves, sister friends. It's time to get after it. You talk about kind of not really having any, your previous life, if you will, having that sort of crazy New York City corporate life, social life on top of it, not really having good intentional boundaries around your time. Many of my listeners are the high achievers, professional women that oftentimes are striving and surviving more than thriving. Many times are people pleasers, just are kind of stuck in that doing, saying yes to everything, having a hard time saying no or setting boundaries, or if they do, they feel guilty. So they don't allow themselves time to just stop and dream, be still and dream that God intends for their life. And hearing your story, I see victory in having come from that sort of situation where you were just on the go, and what sounds like not even any quiet time to hear God's whisper. And then all of a sudden you stopped, and now you're living into your dream and your calling. Tell me about your perspective on knowing kind of when to dream, when to plan, when to just let go and wait on God.
When to dream, when to plan, and when to kind of surrender and wait on God. In terms of when to dream, dreaming to me is very natural. So it's kind of hard to go, when do you do that? And it can be tough to make time for it in the busyness of life. I do my big dreaming stuff at the beginning of the year, looking out at the year, definitely another big one in the middle of the year. And a big one around my birthday. Like my birthday, it's my new year. So that's just kind of my natural rhythms of when I'm dreaming in general. But definitely in the planner, there's a section to dream at the beginning of the year. And then there's these check-in points every quarter to re-situate your dreams and look at it. And I follow that rhythm. It's pretty natural. And what's important about taking the time to dream is just to take the time to dream, to actually say, it's worth it. I'm worth it. I deserve time to dream. And starting with that alignment with God. Yeah. Often our dreaming, we mislabeled dreaming as wanting what someone else has. Like,
Yes.
oh, I'm on Instagram, someone's in Italy, I want to go to Italy. Like, that's kind of dreaming, but really it's more of like you just wanting what someone else has. It's not like the big dreaming where God gets to speak to you and speak to the innermost parts of you and who he created you to, and speak to the inner child in you and rekindle those dreams. Like, that's the kind of dreaming I want for you guys, is sitting down in alignment with God, spending time with him, and dreaming big. And I think all dreams have to be surrendered to Jesus. If we don't surrender our dreams, they can become an idol.
Yeah.
They can become dangerous even. If they're not maintained, they can overtake your marriage. They can overtake your finances. They can, dreams can be dangerous. And so it's important that they are surrendered, because for some of us, like high achievers, we will look at a business dream or a career dream and put so much of our identity in if we make it or not.
Yes.
What does that say about me if I don't make it?
Right.
How am I going to look if the thing I promote stinks, when it fails or whatever,
Yeah.
And we're putting all that hope in like, oh, well, if this doesn't happen, God, this better happen or I'm going to look silly. It's like we have to surrender it. That's when God can really do the dreams and we can handle it, because our identity isn't so wrapped up in it.
Right.
And he knows that. He's like, I'll give you that. But if I give you that, like, you're going to take it and run with it as if it's your identity versus giving me the glory and like us connecting more through it. And so I say, if you haven't dreamed in a while, do it now. Like, take some time. I have some really great dreaming episodes on my podcast back when it was the Dream Planning podcast. You can go back to like the first 10 episodes and it walks you through dreaming, and it's so great. We're obviously going to do it live in San Diego, which is going to be amazing. And with every planner you buy at Horacio Printing, you get access to a course called the Dream Planning Essentials course that comes with the planner. So if you grab one at Horacio Printing, you can get the course and it'll walk you through dreaming. And you can take time for yourself to dream and to plan. My number one dream for everybody, and I think it should be everyone's number one dream, is just to be the healthiest version of themselves, holistically. Mind, body, soul, professional, financial, spiritual, your home, like all the parts of you. And the planning of that dream is very tiny, and it's built into your week. It's built into these little things you do so that they don't become urgent. Like, doing a bit in the home and being intentional with your food and being intentional with exercise, so it doesn't become urgent. I see a lot of people with their schedule, they first fill it up with people pleasing. And surviving. It's like, all right, what do I have to do so nobody dies?
Right.
Like, everyone's fed, and like, that's fine. We got to survive. And then what do I do so no one's mad at me? I'm like, that's it. That's my schedule. Okay. I can do all these things so no one gets mad at me. And I do all these things so I survive. And the rest of my time, I'm just going to binge and get on my phone and like flail around, I don't know, escape here.
I'm out with.
And what if we looked at our schedule and said, well, what do I need to add into it so I can thrive, so I can pour into the areas of my life right now that are dim, in areas that I'm discouraged in. Like, maybe it's my finances. Like, how can I pour into that this week and get organized and get my budget and check in with that? Or maybe you're discouraged in your marriage. Like, how can I pour into that this week? What can I do? A lot of it looks like surrendering, so there's things that we do that are urgent and important. You can't get around it. Like, this is urgent, this is important. And we get addicted to the urgent and important, because if I'm doing urgent and important things, I'm important, And then sometimes if you've been in a busy season, then all of a sudden it slows down. You're like, what? And like, it's almost uncomfortable to slow down, because like, it was important to be needed. It was important that this was happening. And I wasn't dealing with all the other stuff going on in the back burner of my mind, because I was just caught in the urgent and important stuff. And it's difficult. And there's this other level of things that are important, but not urgent.
Mm-hmm.
That is the quiet time with God, the date night, the intentionally planning for healthy meals, or intentionally planning your day so you can get better sleep. Like those things are all important, but they're not urgent. No one's behind you going, hey, I'm going to be really upset with you if you don't go on a date night this week.
Right.
When night, emailing you, hey, date night, have you scheduled it yet? Like really going to need that by end of week, you know, whereas other people are knocking down your door for all these other things. But it's like no one's following up behind you to make sure you're doing the important but not urgent things. But that's the most important things.
Yes.
You have to get comfortable doing things that are not urgent, but that are important. And it's important to list out those things. What are those for you that are important but not urgent? But if you leave it long enough, it will become urgent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a health issue.
The reverse, like the more you get in the habit of doing things in the important and non-urgent, the fewer of the urgent important you will have, because you become more prepared and balanced, and you know, start small instead of wait till it's too big to conquer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then a lot of times we spend our time in the unurgent and unimportant. Which is just escaping, right?
Yeah, right.
Like trash TV or whatever, you know, and like, you know, reading books or whatever. Not that all, you know, I'm not trashing reading books, but there's things that we do to escape. And they're not important and they're not urgent. They're distractions. Let's just call it distractions, right? And so that's where we spend a lot of time when it's not intentional.
Usually more when we really have less time to do it. Like the more overwhelmed I am, then the more at risk I am to succumb to distractions.
Yep.
Yeah. So what would you say you've learned in your journey that's really been the key to being an effective female leader without compromising your faith values? Because I assume now you have all kinds of people. It's not just you at Horacio Printing. So how has leadership looked for you in a way that aligns still with your faith values?
You know, my leadership journey has been, I would say it's been not ideal. I've struggled with hiring and retention and being a leader. I have this thing where I jump over the employee boundary thing like really quick, and like I just want to be their friends. And like I struggle so bad with boundaries of work. And and so that's been one of the harder things for me, to be honest. And I don't feel like I'm good at it still. I'm working on it. But what I have learned is it's so critical to create really firm expectations and hiring people for outcomes and not just tasks is critical. And then creating, I have a company operating system where every single person that works for me has task cards, daily tasks, weekly tasks, monthly tasks, and I can have full transparency of what they are doing, when they're doing it, and if it got done or not. And that was really helpful, finally building that out and seeing it and being able to hire people and bring them into that system where they can see all my tasks that I'm doing. I see all of theirs. And it just sets like a clear expectation, because previously it's like I would hand things off and that person would do a great job, you know, for the first couple of weeks, they would do exactly what I told them to do. But without the proper like SOPs in place and systems and reoccurring task cards, when we jumped forward a few months, it's like the training I gave them initially was forgotten, as it would be, you know, like it's further and further away from when I was first taught this. So it just would become their own thing and it wouldn't be done the way I wanted it. And so it was like having it now where it's like everything's clear and there's SOPs and, you know, really clear expectations. That's been super helpful to see that and to manage it and to just just have transparency in a way where I don't have to guess, like, oh, are they doing
Yes.
stuff or did that get done? It's like,
Or remember, like you don't have to store it up here in your head because it's
yeah,
on a card.
yeah, yeah. And so that's been super duper helpful for me.
For sure. We've talked more recently about the importance of systems and how much having systems that are out of your head and in a system, task cards or electronic system, how much more efficient you are and how much mental energy and kind of physical energy it saves, because you're not relying on your brain as your hard drive or your memory for all the steps that have to go into this and when this has to be done. And from a leadership standpoint, now you've created something that you can replicate. Like if somebody leaves or you invite them to leave, you now have your systems in place for the next person. So that clarity of expectation is you're able to pass that on to the next person easier.
Yep, absolutely. So that's been incredible. I learned that system through Chelsea Joe with her Systemize Your Biz course.
Yeah.
And then I actually went into her beta program for the next thing that she's created that goes a little further for CEOs with multiple employees called Tobos. And I just completed the Tobos beta program and it was phenomenal. So I want to plug that because I did not come up with this system on my own. When I first got everything set up in my cockpit, which is basically a fancy term for like a dashboard of all the things you have to do for the day, week, month, and year, I stopped taking melatonin to go to sleep because like finally like the to-do lists were like not swirling around. Yes. I was like, oh my gosh, it was all captured. Like, what is this? So yeah, can't not share that.
Okay, Polly. I want to be sure my listeners know where to find you and all the goodness you have to offer. So tell us where they can get more of Polly Payne.
So I have the Dream Printing podcast. We can definitely hang out over there. You can go to HoracioPrinting.com to grab your planner and all of your paper needs. And if you're interested in print school, I have a free workshop at HoracioPrinting.com/workshop. All the goodies about my courses and printing programs are at dreamprinting.co. But if you go to HoracioPrinting.com, it has all the links there.
That's awesome. And you guys, honestly, the planners are the most beautiful, luxurious things I've ever used. So I'm going to plug them, and I'll plug them some more in the beginning and the end, and I'll put it in the show notes. In closing, is there anything you want to leave our listeners with? If you could tell them just one thing that could potentially change the trajectory of their lives for the better from your experience, what would that be?
What a great question. I would say that your dreams matter because you matter. And there are other people on the other side of your obedience of continuing to take the next step. Oh, it's not all on you. You're not doing it by yourself. So continue to take the next step.
Oh, I love that. It's beautiful. Thank you, Polly. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
If you haven't already, ladies, I want you to go to HoracioPrinting.com. That's HORACIO printing.com. Snag your 2024 Dream Planner and use the coupon code GRACE15 to get 15% off your planner. These planners are absolutely beautiful. I've never owned a planner that was so inclusive of everything that you'd want in a planner, and the paper is wonderful, the cover is wonderful. They're just great. Also, this episode is going to publish just in time for you to snag an amazing opportunity. Polly, along with her business besties, Chelsea Jo Moore and Steph Gass. Chelsea is like the queen of systems and Steph is the queen of podcasting and developing online business. They are offering the Productivity and Business Power Bundle, available October 23rd through October 29th at a huge discount. You basically get 5 courses for the price of 1. I've taken these courses individually, and this is a huge savings. To snag that bundle, you can go to HoracioPrinting.com Power Bundle. Again, that's HoracioPrinting.com/Power Bundle. I pray this episode blessed you, spoke to you, or encouraged you in some way. If so, please share it with a friend and head on over to Apple Podcasts to leave me a review. That's the only way for me to know if you're enjoying the show. Nothing blesses me more than to hear from you. Also, come on over to our free Facebook community. This is a great place for us to support one another on our faith and leadership journeys. You can find the link to the group in the show notes or go to gracefilledleader.com/community. If you have questions or content ideas for the show, please send me a message on SpeakPipe or via email. Go to gracefilledleader.com/contact and leave a written or voice recorded message. I would love to know how I can best serve you on the podcast. Now to Him who can do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us. Ephesians 3, verse 20. Until next time, my friends, God bless.